Yes, my thumbnail says not your diet. But if you're crushing a box of donuts and a 2-liter bottle of pop every day, then yeah, it probably is your diet. I'm talking to the middle-aged guy who's been eating pretty clean, training consistently, and the scale isn't moving. You're frustrated, your energy is trash, and it feels like nothing is working the way it used to. If that's you, then hang tight, because this is not a motivational problem. It might be a systems problem in your metabolic machinery, the liver in particular. So by the end of this video, not only are you going to understand why fat loss might be such a grind lately, but also how to spot a few indicators in your standard blood work that you probably already have lying around in a clinic portal somewhere. So let's get into it. Here's something frustrating. That calories in, calories out thing was a breeze at 28 years old, was it not? In fact, you didn't even do that math. You weren't counting calories. You just cleaned up your diet and you played basketball on the weekends and the fat melted off. Well, that was back when your metabolic machinery was a polished up, high-performance combustion engine with a wide open throttle. Fast forward a couple decades, and in our 40s and 50s, not only is the same effort not moving the needle, more effort is also not moving the needle. You're more hungry, more tired, and stuck. But you are not lazy. It's just that some of your machinery has some miles on it and is basically out of warranty. You're just not getting the spam calls every 3 days to tell you about it. And one of the most neglected pieces of that machinery is your liver. In fact, the extent to which the average person is educated on liver function is tragic. It is a crime. It does not just filter our blood. It is a processing hub for all the nutrients that we consume. It decides what gets stored, what gets released, and how incoming fuel is handled. It is an energy distribution center for your metabolism. Yes, there's the thyroid, the gut, the pancreas, the hypothalamus, all very important. But your liver is the blue-collar worker in this system, and it does not get vacations. It is on the clock 24/7, managing blood sugar, packaging fats, synthesizing protein. And even though your liver can regenerate like a salamander tail if you cut a chunk of it off, that does not make it immune to long-term abuse. It is on the front lines of your metabolism and subject to your lifestyle. So if you spent years under chronic stress, eating more than you should, weighing more than you should, maybe drinking more than you should, and certainly sleeping a lot less than you should, all those hits start to add up. Early on, this doesn't look dramatic. You don't feel it, you don't see it. Your labs might even look normal, but inside the liver, small amounts of fat start building up in those cells. Now don't confuse this kind of fat with the fluffy subcutaneous stuff that we're designed to get through the winter with. Liver fat is different. When fat builds up inside the liver cells, it doesn't just sit there quietly. It acts more like an active tissue. It starts producing inflammatory chemicals like interleukin-6, tumor necrosis factor alpha, which basically act like stress signals inside the body. So what does that inflammation actually do? It interferes with insulin. Remember, insulin is the hormone from the pancreas that helps control blood sugar. And when I say blood sugar, I mean glucose. Glucose literally just means sugar circulating in the bloodstream. Now in muscle, insulin's job is simple. It helps move sugar from your blood into the muscle so that you can use it for energy. But the liver plays a different role. In the liver, insulin's main job is to help say, hey, stop releasing sugar into the bloodstream. We have enough. Start storing and processing what's coming in. That's how blood sugar stays balanced. But when fat builds up in the liver and inflammation increases, the liver stops responding properly to insulin's signal. So now the liver keeps releasing sugar into the bloodstream even when it shouldn't. Blood sugar stays higher, your body responds by releasing more insulin to try to fix it. And when insulin stays elevated for long periods of time, that changes your metabolism. Insulin is not just a blood sugar hormone, it is also a storage hormone. When insulin is high, your body has a much harder time burning stored body fat for fuel. So now you're stuck in a situation where blood sugar is elevated, insulin is elevated, and your body is less willing to burn fat. That's how this becomes a cycle. And it often starts way before someone ever gets diagnosed with anything. So what does that sound like? It sounds like one of the reasons many people after 40 feel like they're paddling upstream just trying to lose 15 or 20 pounds. It feels harder because it is harder. It is not your imagination. You are hungrier on the same calories. You are more tired after the same workout. In fact, you are tired all the time. Your brain fog is relentless and the scale keeps saying the same damn thing. So you burn out again and dive headfirst into a plate of nachos. God, I love nachos. Now, yeah, sure. I don't care what insulin is doing. If you starve yourself hard enough for long enough, you will absolutely lose weight, including a ton of muscle, because you were too fatigued to have a meaningful workout. Yes, at the end of the day, fat loss is still the end result of calories in, calories out. But how efficiently you achieve the calories out portion matters. There's a big difference between peeling fat off the top of retained muscle and ending up exhausted, skinny fat, and miserable. Quick note before we get to the blood work indicators, this channel is dedicated to breaking this kind of stuff down and offering practical solutions, especially for guys over 40 pulling their hair out trying to improve their health. So if you want the follow-up videos on how to actually fix this, hit subscribe and I'll be walking you through it. So the next step is to figure out whether your liver might be the bottleneck for you or not. The good news is you don't need to jump straight into a CT machine or a DEXA scan. There's a lot of first step indicators sitting in your basic blood work you probably already have in an email or a clinic portal somewhere. Here's a few patterns to look for. Number 1, your triglyceride to HDL ratio. Now there's considerable debate about what the exact value of that should be, but you definitely want that number low, which would be having low triglycerides and a high HDL score. Conversely, having high triglycerides and a low HDL value is strongly associated with insulin resistance and fatty liver risk, so keep your eye on that stuff. Now a more obvious one is mildly but persistently elevated liver enzymes, right? ALT, AST. And I'm not talking about acute spikes from a hard leg workout or a pub crawl that you did the night before the blood draw. I mean labs that are consistently trending high normal or slightly elevated over time. At minimum, that's often a sign that there is some type of stress in the liver. Also, your A1C and fasting insulin levels. Now, these are often not part of your standard blood panel. They should be, but if you've ever been told that your values have been trending upwards, even if it's technically within range, heading towards that higher end of the range, that is another indicator that glucose handling and liver insulin sensitivity are most likely compromised. So if you've noticed any of these trends across the last several blood labs, or you just noticed that you're in the upper end range of normal, have a conversation with your physician. But in light of all of this, there is good news. The liver is very forgiving, and this can be turned around, and you don't have to move mountains to do so either. And once you get your foot in the door, the constant grind with your metabolism loosens up a lot, because restoring your health and wellness becomes a hell of a lot easier when you feel better. I promise you that. So in the next few videos, I'm going to break down exactly how to do that in a practical, evidence-based way. So if you haven't subscribed yet, it would mean the world to me if you did, and I will help you every way that I can. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.